Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of the Diablo series here on my channel. My name is ChaosMole and today we talk about the things Diablo 3 did right and I want to see in Diablo 4. Now I know I have been relatively critical in the last few Diablo episodes, especially when it came to Diablo 3. I had a lot to say, but believe it or not, Diablo 3 did actually some things right. And that's what I want to talk about and what I would love to see in Diablo 4. Now keep in mind that some of the things that were mentioned here have been already announced, or they have been announced and then changed, or we don't really know yet. So there's a lot of like ifs and whens, and we will be only 100% sure about it when we can finally play the game. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the adventure mode. Oh my gosh, I cannot overstate how important the adventure mode is for the fun I have in Diablo 3. Like, it is one of the reasons why I stopped playing Path of Exile. I just can't anymore do the 10 acts over and over and over and over again. I'm done with it. I'm sick of Kitava. I cannot kill this dude anymore without just being annoyed by him, right? Like, it is bad. And it is one of the main reasons why I stopped playing Path of Exile. But thanks in Diablo, and don't get me wrong, the Diablo 3 story is also not really great, and I would probably just puke if I have to do it every season. But because of the adventure mode, I can just jump into most of the endgame activities, not all of them of course, but most of them right from the get-go, and the leveling is quite fast. And it is such a joy to just have fun with the game, just kill a lot of enemies, do some quests here, fight some bosses, and so on and so forth, instead of just blindly following the story over and over again. Especially randomizing the areas you can go to is again such a good thing, and we know that the adventure mode itself will not directly return in Diablo 4, but they have already told us that Diablo 4 is an open world game where we can just go as we please, and we can do the story from every angle, and we can also do like a lot of activities right from the get-go. We can play with other players, of course, and I think it counts as an adventure mode. It's not the adventure mode, right? But just having the freedom to just go into the north, the south, to the mountains or whatever, and do your thing there, do some quest, do some dungeons, do some events, and then move on and just decide where you want to go. It's such a great thing. And I'm really happy that that is happening. Like, again, it's not fully the adventure mode. Maybe at some point later down the line, after like a year or so, they will release a patch where you can completely ignore the story and can just do the open world stuff. But it seems like that something similar to the adventure mode is available to you right from the get-go, right? And I'm really happy about that if that is the case. The next thing I want to talk about, and I know this sounds a bit weird to say it, but the endgame. Diablo 3's endgame was kind of fun. I know some people will say, wait, what? Are you saying you like the endgame of Diablo 3 more than the endgame in, let's say, Path of Exile? Yes, kinda. Because there was more variety in the end. Like, yes, I know, in the end, it all comes down to running the Great Rifts, right? That's what this is all about. But I think they were on the right path with what you could do endgame-wise in Diablo 3. Well, in the expansion Reaper of Souls, not the base game, because there was no endgame in the base game. But you get what I mean, right? Like, they were on the right path. You had the Great Rifts, you had the quests, aka the adventures, then you had like multiple portals you could open. You had the set dungeons, which I think were kind of cool. You also had the those time limited playthroughs, and I think they really try to have a great variety of just different things you could do in the end game. And it seems like in Diablo 4, at least from what we could gleaned on the announcement of the end game beta, it seems there's again a lot of variety here. We have like word events, special daily quests we can do, of course, like hardcore dungeons. There will be like open world raid bosses and other like events sometimes coming up over the weekend that they're saying, hey, there's this area which will be attacked by some swamp monsters, defended, right? It seems like there is much more variety in what we can do when we are reaching the end game of Diablo. And I think that's important. Like doing the same thing over and over and over again just becomes repetitive, right? And just having this illusion of you actually have a variety of things to do, even though it always boils down to kill a lot of enemies and then kill a boss at the end or something. I think it is very important to have that. Speaking of illusion, I know they have kind of announced this already, they have showed us already, but talent trees are back. And I'm so glad that they are bringing back the illusion of you having a choice. Now, I call it illusion. What do I mean by that? Well, let's face it. Diablo 3 had more options how you could play your character than you had in Diablo 2. What? No. You have never played Diablo 2. You don't know what you are talking about. No, let me finish here. Just look at the talent trees in Diablo 2. Look at them. You realize very quickly that the choices you have are not really that big. There are not really that many choices, and sometimes even if you're putting a point into something, they're insignificant. They do not matter in the long run. But that doesn't matter, because in your head you have this feeling of, I make a choice here. I work towards something. Every time you have a level up, you have this ding sound, and then you get a point, and you can decide where you put your points in. Does it really matter in the long run? Did you really make a choice at that point? Probably not, but that doesn't matter. It makes it look like it, right? Like one of the best examples is another Blizzard game, which funny enough is now bringing back talent trees, is World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft made their talent trees disappear with Cataclysm, and they brought in more choice, but it doesn't feel like it at all. And it's this illusion the talent trees created. Like, I remember as a hunter, you basically had like a talent where you could put 5 points in, which would increase your attack speed by 5% in total. It's like, what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Why does this matter? But it didn't. Well, it actually did, because you had the feeling of, I make a choice here and I'm increasing the strength on my character. And again, Diablo 3 gave you tons of choices. I think I have never seen that many different builds you can run on a character if you are not necessarily trying to be the number one on the leaderboard every season, but the game is giving you a lot of options you can just choose from, right? But even with that said, it never really felt like you chose any of this. You just got it for free. Like every level up, you would get a talent. Every level up, you would get a new ability or an improvement or whatever. But you never had to make a decision. You never had to think about, ooh, do I want this talent? Do I want this ability? Do I want to put a point in there? You never had to do that. And so it just feels like no accomplishment has been made. Right? So I'm kind of glad that we already know talent trees are back, and I'm really hoping that they can give you this feeling of accomplishment again you had in Diablo 2, even though Diablo 2 has less option than in Diablo 3. It just felt better in Diablo 2, right? Which brings us to the next system, the Paragon System. I really, really love the Paragon System in Diablo 3. I know they will completely overhaul it for Diablo 4, and it will be very different from what we have seen. It looks really interesting, and it reminds me a little bit of the talent system with the jewels and stuff in Path of Exiles, right? Where you can just put a jewel into the talent tree and then you would unlock like multiple talents around it and all that. Like, it looks a little bit like that with the new Paragon system. But the old Paragon system was really good because it gave you this feeling of, I am always moving my character forward. Like, you could have a run and not get a single item you need. Not a single thing which would improve your character. And you still didn't feel like this was a waste of time because, well, you had the Paragon levels. You got like a level or 2 or 3, especially at the beginning you are leveling very quickly, but you always feel like, okay, I might not have gotten the items I really look for, and they would give me a much, much bigger power boost, but at least I got something out of this. At least I got a little boost out of it thanks to the Paragon system. And I am so glad that they are taking this whole system and bringing it into Diablo 4, making meaningful changes to it and really give you the feeling that you're always moving forward with a character. Because nothing is more frustrating than doing like 10 runs of like a Greater Rift and not getting a single item out of it. Yeah, that is still very frustrating when it happens, but at least you didn't feel like you completely wasted your time because you still did move forward thanks to the Paragon system. And I'm so glad that they are bringing that back with Diablo 4. It's a good system. Which brings us to the next system, which I know this will be controversial, but itemization. No, I'm not talking about the itemization of the base game of Diablo 3. We talked about that in the previous video, and that was completely bullshit, right? It was horrid. But in Diablo 3, I always felt like I can do something with the items I'm finding. I can utilize it at some point for another character or for another build, and I never felt like, man, the items I have just found here are completely shit. I just don't want them anymore. Okay, it happens sometimes, but most of the time you always feel like you can do something with this item. Somehow. Right? And even if you find an item which is not 100% perfect, you could mold it in a way that it could support you at least for a while. The same goes, of course, with the legendary gems that then established with the set items, which gives you a ton of possibilities to just build your character in the way you want to, right? And you can then just say, okay, you know what? I have done the Thorn Crusader for 6 months now. Let's just swap it up. Let's try something else. And the game lets you. It's a bit like, I know that some people really love how Diablo 2 has done it. That basically if you wanted to create a specific character and it was too different from the character you were playing, you had to respec, right? You had to redo the character because respecing is not really a thing. And you had to start from the beginning. And I always felt like not really great about it. Like, at least over the years, I came more and more to not like the whole system, right? And so I love what Diablo 3 is doing here, just like giving you different set items. You're just swapping out the gems. You are changing a few things up, which maybe takes you 30 minutes to an hour at worst. And then you adjust in your new skill set and you continue to do what you did before, but you have more fun with it because it's something new and exciting. And itemization is a huge part of that. And so they've done a pretty good job with it, and I would love to see that again in Diablo 4. But with that said, those are the things I'm really looking forward to, and they were so good in Diablo 3 that I want to like see them improved or something similar again in Diablo 4. Of course, I also want that Diablo 4 is trying out a lot of new things because, as I said before, unfortunately, Diablo 3 has and had a lot of issues. So don't be too close to it. That's my point here. But the reality is, there are a few features I definitely want to see again. And the rest, they have to come up with something new. But with that said, we are at the end of the video. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate if you leave a like. If you're new to the channel, you want to see more Diablo content in the foreseeable future, especially with the endgame beta coming around, even though it's under NDA, there's probably a lot of information we will get from. And yeah, if you want to stay up to date with Diablo 4, we're also doing like the developer updates and trailers and whatnot. I would appreciate if you might consider to subscribe to the channel. We are also streaming here on YouTube from Monday to Friday, starting at 8 a.m. East Coast time, which is 1 p.m. UK time, and 2 p.m. Central European time. We are talking about gaming news and then always playing the newest games, sometimes days or weeks before the actual release. So if you want to check out new games before they actually come out, you came to the right place. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and see you next time.